Hello, good people, and welcome to the High Living Podcast, episode 6. And today is a very special day for me. I've got one of my very close friends, service providers, colleagues, and former project mates that's sitting in front of me, Mr. Malcom Fourie, who's a very interesting chap. He's, I'm not going to steal his thunder, but Malcolm runs one of the largest luxury architectural firms in the country. He's an avid golfer, he's a PGA professional, and he's got many other accolades. I'm also privileged to call him my friend, and I've known Malcolm now for the last 3 odd years, Maddie. So welcome. We've been wanting to do this for a while.
Yeah.
We just haven't got around to it, and today's the day where we sit across the microphone from each other and have a conversation about how life has become so complex, and how people can take that complexity and use it and find ways to take their lives to a higher level.
Yeah.
So welcome, man.
Thanks, Sean. Obviously, thanks for hosting me and to all your listeners. It's a privilege to be here. Thanks for breaking my podcast virginity.
Yeah.
It's I guess we all drive around and we listen to these podcasts and we never actually immediately think whether we'd ever get an opportunity to be on one. So it's really cool. Really, really cool.
Yeah, and like with this podcast, and I've said this before, it's about changing the life of one person. It doesn't get more complex than that.
Yeah.
And it's about being authentic, and it's about just being who we are as people. Because I think that in today's world, finding authentic is difficult. Finding imperfection is difficult, and there's so much beauty in imperfection.
Yeah.
And we just have to find a way of bringing authenticity back into our lives, and that's why I really think that our conversation today is going to be a great one, because tell me a bit about what's happening in the luxury home space. SBE, the firm that you run, is in leaps and bounds, dominating the market. In fact, you guys were rated the best architectural firm on the continent, was it?
No, it wasn't on the continent, but it was one of the top 5 architects in this. Well, yeah, you can basically say Africa, but the continent. But they don't really take into consideration the big international players that also do design. Yeah, but it was. But just to go back a little bit, I think listening to a podcast or doing a podcast, if you can think about all the times that your life was impacted a little bit by a sentence that you've heard, or another person speaking of something where you have heard it 15 times from your wife or your mother or your father, and you don't listen, and then you listen to a podcast and there's something that someone says that immediately resonates with you, and it does plant a little seed that does affect your life, change your life, and improve your life. So, and we all listen to different forms of audio material, whether it's YouTube or podcasting or Instagram videos or whatever that may be. And it doesn't matter on what size or scale you can operate on. If you reach 10 people, if you reach 10 million people, it's incredible. It's you putting yourself out there, searching and trying to find the little pearls of wisdom and the little areas where people have reached great heights and done things in their lives that have made a massive impact, whether it's on a massive scale or just in their community. So that's awesome to do these sorts of things. So my journey to SBE has been one that started with the same sides of the magnet, where I just didn't want to make the connection, where the positive and the negative was kind of always fighting against one another. And when we were younger, we had these wild dreams and we wanted to do all sorts of cool things, and always sport is our main go-to as a male. Want to play rugby, cricket, golf, all the masculine things, you want to be a hero, and you want to prove people wrong, and you want to make your mom proud, and you want to be somebody one day. And brilliant upbringing, very blessed with all the things that I've had in my life. My mom has always done the best to take care of me and always made sure that I've had enough and more, and often given me things and helped me with things that I've not deserved, but always made sure that regardless of that, she showed me unconditional love and made sure that I was looked after and always put in the best environments and the best situations where she could help it. So, so I mean, the journey started at varsity when I didn't get into building sciences, actually. I applied for BSc Building Sciences and I was actually rejected. So I started Human Movement Sciences, Sports Biokinetics. And after a year and a half, I just decided that it wasn't my passion. It wasn't something that I wanted to pursue in that sense. And then we explored a few other options, and we went to go see the dean of the sports faculty at the time. And you know, as timing had it, and as the universe had it, I was perfectly aligned to start a new course at the University of Pretoria that's never been done, and they've been working on this course for the last 18 months. And that's how long it takes to pass a course through the higher education system. It was called Sports Science Specializing in Golf. So it was a combination of a sports science degree and obviously your PGA curriculum, which they took the university subjects that are relative to the sports and the golfing industry, and obviously your full curriculum with the PGA fraternity combined became a three-year degree plus extra, I think half a year of practical. Luckily, we didn't call it the Zuma years because ours was not medically inclined. We had to get sign-off from a doctor or whatever, but you do have to get sign-off from a registered and qualified PGA Pro, so you couldn't muck around and hide. You had to literally, first of all, you had to play good golf.
Were you playing golf at the time?
I was playing golf at the time, yeah. So
what handicap were you at that point?
At that point, I was scratch.
Sure.
Scratch, one shooting level par. But you know, part of our studies was playing golf and practicing, and we were enrolled at the High Performance Center as well. So we had all the professional people look after us that any child or young aspiring athlete could dream of. And you know, if we only understand and we had that maturity at that age to realize what we have around us, I think many of us would take it more seriously and actually be more disciplined and dedicated in knowing what it takes to be a world-class champion or a major winner or even just a winner on the local tour, because that even is tough these days because the talent is so massive.
And the game of golf is just so complex that on the day one can find, I mean, even as a scratch, I mean, one can find anything on the day.
Yeah.
It's just the level of complexity of the game. And I, in my personal opinion, I don't think there's a game that's more complex. The game that is so reliant on where the ball is positioned, so reliant on the surface that you're hitting off. You've got 14 different instruments you need to use. All of them need to be used in different ways.
Yeah.
The grass, every course is slightly different. You know, it's so much to think about.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes not a fair reflection of your talent. It's just sometimes what you find on the day.
Yeah. And I think the other big thing as well is you've got all these tools and equipment and technology, but then you're also dealing with the human body. And that's where the qualification and the science behind combining the two degrees was quite interesting and so amazing to not only understand the technology and the equipment that's around us, but also to understand the human anatomy and what it takes to be a professional athlete. Someone like a Tiger Woods that revolutionized the game of golf back in the day. I mean, when he started out, he was doing training courses that are designed for US Marines. and for US Marshal. This guy used to run 21 kilometers every day. He used to do extreme weights in the gym. Where you had other professional athletes that had a beer boop and was smoking and partying and.
But we love John Daly, right?
But you love a little John Daly, you know. So he really opened up the doors to a whole new world of what it takes. Although golf is a low heart rate sport, except when you're putting for birdie,
Yeah.
but you know, in its physical form, it's not a high energy, not a high heart rate activity. But in order to perform for 4 days, week in, week out, and trying to putt for the green jacket or the US Open or the Ryder Cup victory for the whole European tour or the American team or the European team, that takes mental toughness. Now, that is something that was never really concentrated on or important, was how mentally tough people need to be on the sports field and not only off the sports field with the media and the fame and just trying to be somebody one day.
And I mean, we've experienced the toughness of putting that on the 18th, and you putting for that par that's going to win you the game. Now imagine putting with 1,000 people cheering, the pressure of the media, the world looking on you. And I think that's also what made Tiger great, is in those moments he was able to, and I mean, it comes also back to the way his dad drilled him, you know, in terms of the way his dad trained him, just to be able to lock into that moment, forget everything else, and just execute, walk up, perform the pre-shot routine, aim, pull the trigger. Simple.
No, I mean that stuff comes from many years, many hours of being drilled and being zoned out and focused, and you know, people talk about being in the zone and all that sort of thing, and it's a common word these days, but it took somebody like Tiger to show people what it takes and how to do it every week, every Sunday afternoon, every time you put on a red shirt, every major event, you know. And I mean, all us young aspiring kids, when we were at that age, we modeled our swing on that. We modeled our physiques, we modeled our swing. We went to psychologists and tried to figure out from them what did they study that we can try and implement on the golf course. I mean, Tiger had about 12 psychologists around him all the time.
He did hypnotherapy. He was quite open about the fact that he used to go and work with his subconscious mind. And when he approaches the green or he approaches the tee to try and, you know, automatically kick that subconscious mind into gear so that he can actually zone out and just perform. And he was very open about it, you know. But you're 100% right. He found that at that stage of golf, most people were just focused on the equipment, on the swing, on the this and the that, but no one had really explored the capability of the human body and how to tune that instrument. In his downfall, he also broke his body. He actually took it a bit too far in some ways.
Well, I mean, that's the risk of trying to perform at that level. You know, when you look at the repetitive swings that they have to make, all the pressure on the left knee, the pressure on the lower back, the pressure on just a whole lot of muscular and skeletal things that these athletes need to go through day in, day out. I mean, if you look at Bryson DeChambeau, if you look at Scotty Scheffler, what those guys are swinging like at the moment, yes, it does. Tiger has proven now that it does eventually take a massive toll on your body. Well, the guy also did have a car crash or two, but I mean, physically, if you do not maintain your body, like we just spoke before the session, you know, if you don't maintain your body and constantly seek healthy habits, then it is going to cave in, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I've had interviews of his where he says that running 20 miles a day actually just destroyed his knees. And it just got, they eroded to a point where it just, I mean, it just was impossible. I mean, we've seen the videos of him swinging and then falling to the floor. Back is giving up, knees are giving up.
But the oak still tries, still gets up.
But
he still gets up.
I mean, with a broken leg, his caddy says the bogey. He said to him, okay, why don't we just call it a day now before you get put into injury? He said, what are you talking about? You're going to win this.
Yeah,
And he
not
won
until I win this.
And it shows mental toughness, man.
On a level that we all aspire to.
Yeah, it shows grit. It's like you're on the floor with the world looking at you.
World watching you.
You pick yourself up.
Yeah.
And you just, you go out there. And I mean, I remember seeing one, I can't remember which one it was, but I remember seeing one of the majors where he won, and he said, the camera came to him and said to him, like, so how do you feel? I mean, what is your goals for today? And he said, all I wanted to do today was not make a bogey. That's all I wanted to do. That was my goal. And he knew if he never made a bogey, he would have won the tournament. He was going to win the tournament. So they said to him, but if you got 2-3 shots less, you could have beaten Sam Snead's record on the course. I'm not interested in that. I just didn't want to make a bogey.
Yeah.
And sometimes keeping the goal small, just keep a small goal.
Yeah.
And the small goal sometimes unlocks everything that you ever want. But I think, and I'd like to hear your opinion on it, but sometimes we try to, accomplish getting to the moon, and we are so fixated on this huge goal that we actually forget that there's little incremental goals that are needed for us to get there. But it sometimes distracts us to such a point where we get completely sidelined. And like we were talking about before we started the podcast, you've now started your first 9 holes of golf. First 9 holes has gone fantastic. Immediately you go into a calculation mode to calculate what your score is going to be based on the trajectory that you're at, and you've determined that today is going to be your lowest round ever.
Yeah.
What ends up happening? It ends up being one of your worst rounds ever.
Yeah.
Because you've now projected into a space that doesn't exist, and you are living in a space that doesn't exist, which takes you away from the space that does exist, which is the present.
Yeah.
And I think every person that's played golf or played some sort of sport understands that concept.
Yeah. When I used to work for Jeff Claus, who's the golf director at St. Francis Links, one of the first things he ever taught me was that every great shot starts with a smile. And we're dealing with so much things around us and whatever, and we don't often get time to just take off 5-6 hours and enjoy a round of golf with no distractions. But it's the approach that you take every single shot, and it's your mindset going into every single shot, and it's your pre-shot routine going into every single shot that ultimately determines what the result of that shot will be like. It's only a few centimeters behind the ball and a few centimeters in front of the ball that matters. Everything else is just mechanics. The most important thing is just behind the ball, just before the ball, in front of the ball. And you could have the most positive person in the world hit a bad shot, but is that person gonna scream, shout, swear, or is he just gonna clean his club, be present of mind in knowing that where he is right now is in the Garden of Eden somehow, somewhere, and he's just enjoying the creation of what we're being given to live with, and being with friends, being able to physically do a physical activity like a golf swing, having the privileged opportunity of playing golf on the day, and that's we often forget about these things, and there's so much. There's the magnitude of all the situations around us often overshadow of the pure simple pleasure of just having a recreational round of golf, and just improving yourself every single time. And we're always so worried about the handicap, and we're always so worried about competing against other oaks, and what are the stroke indexes and what are the things, and it's become such an important part of the golf game that we've completely forgotten about the simple activities of just going to the driving range and working on something very simple, going to the putting green, working on something very simple. And it's those small goals off the golf course that when you're in the moment on the golf course, subconsciously, when you lock into that and you know what the body must feel like, what the mind must think, that's when you execute properly. And it's not going to happen every time. You're going to make a mistake. I was playing against some members of ours on Friday. On Sunday, and on one of the tee boxes, one of those little white flowery pollen things blew off the tree, and as I started my downswing, it came between my legs.
Oh, goodness.
And stuffed up my shot. But everything before that was done, you know what I mean? So, like an unforeseen situation like that, you can't, I'm not Tiger Woods, I just commit to the shot and hit it.
Even Tiger hit some bad shots.
Yeah.
And he just managed to recover.
Mm.
And he hit some impossible shots, and it's like you say, it's that repetitive nature of practicing and practicing and practicing that allows you to do it under pressure. But the one thing I wanted to chat to you about, that you mentioned now a few minutes ago, was the importance of pre-shot routine. I can see a direct correlation between the quality of my pre-shot routine and the quality of my shot.
Yeah.
It's a direct correlation.
Do you practice your pre-shot routine at the same pace and tempo as your swing?
No, because my pre-shot routine doesn't involve a practice swing.
Okay.
But sometimes we get lazy.
Yeah.
And I find that when my scores get better, my golf hygiene gets worse. The direct correlation there as well.
Yeah.
Because I find that if I'm consistently shooting good scores, then I forget to do the basics.
Or we become complacent.
I become complacent. I don't need a pre-shot routine. I'll just hit it there somewhere. Yeah, I see that tree in the distance. I'll just hit it there. But when the pre-shot routine is in a good space, you're aiming for a leaf on the tree. You aim small, miss small. You're aiming that small, and you're locked into that target.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, and the thing about pre-shot routines is that everyone's got a different one.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to work on practicing an element of the weakness almost of what they are trying to fix or correct in that swing.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. And I see that if you look at the pros, you look at the time they spend behind the ball, just looking, visualizing, the power of visualization. It's almost like an affirmation, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like they can actually see themselves standing, delivering. They can watch the flight of the ball. They see where the ball is going to turn, where it's going to land, where it's going to pitch. And even with that, it doesn't happen all the time.
No, for sure. For sure. I mean, us normal golfers that, just play with mates and recreational and things like that. We still picture it, and 8 times out of 10, it doesn't work out 100% that way. But that's where the cross-pollination of sports and professional life and business life has got so much in common, because when you know what it takes to wake up at a certain time in the morning and practice your golf or do a physical activity like go run or whatever it is, it's because you're training for something. You're working towards something. But how often do we do that in our business life, where we wake up early in the morning and we practice for something? We are too shy and too embarrassed to wake up in the morning at 4 o'clock and go sit in the study and do a pitch to ourselves from a presentation.
Absolutely. Do your pre-shot routine for your presentation. That's about to happen.
But now we want to walk into a boardroom with 10 people and we want to try and make a sale, whether it's selling a house plan to an architectural client, doing a big financial deal, whatever that may be. We're happy to do that on the sports field. We're happy to go and kick the soccer ball around and hit the goal posts and score a goal and if you play rugby, put it through the posts, or golf, go and putt, do 6-foot putts, go and do long putts, go and do wedge shots, go and do chip shots. But when we know we've got a big meeting, how often do we wake up in the morning and just prepare for that meeting?
Hardly ever.
You know how many times I've had the opportunity to do something unproductive, or I had the opportunity to spend half an hour preparing for a client that needs to make a decision that day. And the times that I've prepared for that specific client, I've gone through their documents, I've researched the place where they want to live one day or whatever that may be, and I've just spent half an hour on preparing for it. The potential, the percentage of making a successful deal or a sale far outweighs me rather going for breakfast at a restaurant and scrolling through social media and trying to kill time before my meeting. And that approach has helped me a little bit on both sides of the scale, whether it was with sports or whether it was with me eventually having to step away from the athlete ring and trying to turn my passion for the game into a business. Is I had to prepare mentally, I had to know what I had to do in order to travel the world and get clients to travel to South Africa, do a golf and safari trip. That was my first business entrepreneurial stint.
Because your passion is hospitality, right?
Passion is hospitality. And my passion still remains travel, hospitality, the golfing industry. And I had an opportunity in 2010 to really live that. And I lived that for many years. And it was an amazing time, and I was very fortunate and blessed to see and witness incredible destinations, play amazing golf courses. And I've always had such a appreciation for what the game of golf can bring to us as a person, and not just we rock up at a golf course and play around a golf, shower, have a drink, get in your car and go home. It's taught me an enormous amount of things about life and business and endurance.
I completely agree with you. I mean, I often tell family and friends, and they laugh at me when I say this, but I often tell them that when I started playing golf, which is not nearly as long as you've been playing golf, but golf is like life. You have to approach it in the same way. First of all, you have to stay in your lane. Yes, you're playing with 3 other people if you're playing a full ball, but they're on their own journeys.
Yeah.
And they're not really interested in what's happening with you in most times, because at certain points they're struggling.
Well, at most times they want you to stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it makes them feel better.
And I mean, the thing about the game of golf, it's such a supportive game because guys know how hard it is.
Yeah.
So often when you hit a bad shot, even your competitors will say, stuff, unlucky.
Yeah.
You're doing this wrong or whatever. They try and help you.
Yeah.
But it's also very similar to life in that you can never just have a perfect round. It's ups and it's downs and it's ups and it's downs. And when it's downs, you find you learn more about your game. You find you learn more about yourself. You find you learn more about your partner. But when it's ups, you're not really learning much. And I mean, what you're saying now about your journey, you starting off as you did your degree and you changed degrees, and then the universe just had another degree waiting for you that's completely aligned, and then you went into the hospitality industry. What I'm hearing you say is that there's an aspect of that you've just taken on the journey of life. You haven't overcomplicated it, and you've just sort of gone where you've seen the life taking you.
Yeah.
Which I think is so difficult for a lot of people today, because we are all control freaks on some level, and we all want to control where life is going.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you relinquish that control, and on the golf course as well, sometimes when you relinquish the control and you just hit the ball, things just happen much easier.
Yeah. I think to add on to that, it's so true, because I've had a very colourful life, and I've had a very interesting journey in the sense that there's been so many opportunities, and although we try and grab the right ones and all that sort of thing, I've always tried to entertain opportunities, and I've always tried to expose myself to what can be achieved when I attempt to do this. The one thing I've often spoken to my mom about this, and I've spoken to my wife about this. We often speak about what would you have done, knowing now what was in front of you, the 2 paths that you could have taken. Do you think you would have done it differently, knowing that if you stayed at that place, you would have become the golf director? If you just hung on a little bit longer, you would have become the CEO of the estate and the golf course. But you took a chance on becoming an entrepreneur and actually running your own business. I often my answer back in the day was that I did regret it, because if I did stay on a little bit longer, I would have had the golf director position, or I would have eventually achieved the CEO position of the estate and that sort of thing. But I had an opportunity that exposed the world to me, and it opened up many doors for me to meet incredible people. But the one thing I wish that I had was more structure and more guidance in my life. So on a personal level, I never grew up with a father. So my mom had to play a dual role, but she never missed any of my important matches, games, tournaments, rounds, anything like that. She was there every day. I mean, she ran an enormous architectural. She runs an enormous architectural firm. She's a businesswoman of note. She's a
powerhouse.
She's a powerhouse in the architectural industry, and she's highly respected in that sense. But she always took time to be wherever I needed to be in my important moments. I think if there's one thing that I had at the time was someone to go to that I can ask important questions. What would you do? Because the people that we would have spoken to at that time in our age, when we were 18, 21, 25, those men and women would have been 40, 50s, and they would have seen a lot of things in their lives by then.
They would have made the mistakes. They would have made,
They would have made the mistakes. They would have seen the difference between decisions being made, and they could have, they can give you sound advice based on what you tell them and what you ask them. And I think I will never regret the path that I'm on or the journey that I've taken, but I do wish that I knew then, and that I had people that I could reach out to and that I can ask for advice, whether it's a parent or a teacher or your parents' friends that are successful business people or whatever. So
I think everyone that's listening to this podcast, myself included, can resonate with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's just about seeking counsel before you make a decision.
Yeah.
Sometimes I talk to people about having a decision coach.
Yeah.
The person doesn't even need to know that they are your decision coach. You don't have to say to them, "Listen, you're my decision coach."
Yeah.
You schedule a coffee with the person, you take them out for a lunch, and you sketch the landscape for them, and you get their perspective. That's all it takes. But so often we don't do that.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you're saying.
When I started realizing that this was actually something that I can do, is approach people and talk to them about my decisions in life, I started reaching out to some of my mom's clients that walk through the door, that are successful business people in their own right, people that have retired at the age of 40 and that have come back from retirement, people that have built enormous companies and are building their dream home, and people that have spent many years making so much ammo and now building their holiday house, or now building a retirement home, or whatever that may be. Those guys have made some crucial decisions along the way, and I've reached out to a few of them on the occasion to ask them, what do I do? I'm faced with this decision. What do I do?
Do I go left or do I go right?
Do I go left? Do I go right? We are all faced with the decision. Do we go to our last frontier, which is the coast? Do we hop across the pond and immigrate? What is there for us? What is here for us? What do we do when we go? What do we do when we stay? I recently had an opportunity to move to the Western Cape. I had an opportunity to invest in a lifestyle decision that would earn me a little bit of ammo, but I could sit on the beach every day and my kids can grow up by the water, or I can face the reality and entrench myself in an existing firm that has built a phenomenal relationship over the years, and I have the opportunity and the chance to carry that legacy forward.
Not only carry it forward, but with your mindset, take it to the next level. Because it's currently, and I say this with respect, its future is currently determined by the capacity, the ability to embrace the digital world and other aspects. But the future of the firm is dependent on the capacity of the directors and the passion and the energy that the directors have in terms of where they see it going.
Yeah.
And with your mindset and your business savvy, you could take that firm to the next level, which is exactly what they need.
Yeah. I think I've got strong feelings that we're all faced with a situation around us where we're either gonna start falling behind with what's happening around us, or we're gonna go through that hell, and we're gonna all properly grind and suffer and pull whatever resource we can find and break through whatever we've got that's going to come up in the next few months and years. And it's what we're going to do right now that's going to help us to survive in the next 5 years. Whether it's personal, digital, social, business-wise, whatever that may be, there's so much going on around us. And you don't want to see the person next to you fail so that you can win, but it's like we all see on social media, there's like two types of people, those that enjoy people fail and those that enjoy people win. It's a mindset thing. It's a thing that if more of us can achieve more wins every day, it'll change the mindset of the masses. If you can influence anybody around you and help them to make a victory on their day, whether it's at home or whether it's on the golf course, whether it's the team making a sale, whether it's a partner you're playing golf with that needs to shoot his personal best, or whether he's going through something tough at home. I mean, I've got a friend across in America that's going through something that's not so lekker. And at a distance, I'm trying to be there for that guy, And we're also worried about how we're going to survive the next month and the next paycheck or the next deal that's going to come in or whatever. We forget about what we can do together as friends and as spouses or as family and that sort of thing. And I think that's one thing that I love about like my brothers and how we have started phoning each other quite regularly, and we've started just celebrating the small little wins and just kind of building each other up as men of the house and as men in business, and how more important it is now than ever to make everybody feel like they're part of a collective and going forward, rather than seeing who's strong enough to survive, who will fall by the wayside, and who will be able to see this thing through.
No, you're absolutely right, and I salute you for that, because that takes a lot, because it also means you need to put your pride aside.
Yeah.
You need to put your ego aside.
Yeah.
But I want to just go back a second, because you touched on something that's just I'm so passionate about, which is your journey and your opportunity to become the golf director and the CEO versus where you are right now. And Malcolm, this is just my view, right?
Yeah, sure.
And I just believe that in life we find ourselves in a position where we are exactly meant to be. Everything in life happens and is architected so beautifully. All we need to do is get out of the way and let life do what it does. That doesn't mean we just sit back and do nothing. No, it means in the present moment that we do the best we can. When we go to that presentation, we prepare, we have our pre-shot routine, we do the best we can, and we win the work.
Yeah.
And based on how well we do in the present, life will steer us where we need to go.
Yeah.
If I look at my own life, I've also been through some difficult lessons, and if I look at it, and I'm sure you're the same, if you look back at some of your difficult lessons, they were so critical.
Yeah.
And only when you get to the end you realize that. And now I'm coming back to your second point you made about, do we stay safe or do we push through the hell and get to the other side? Brother, my view is the only way out is through. That's the only way. And I mean, I say that not in context to immigration and all of those aspects, but I'm saying in context to personal challenges. The only way out is through.
Yeah.
You have to persevere.
Yeah.
You have to push on. You have to find a mechanism of keeping your mind sane, because at the end of the darkness comes the light.
Yeah.
And when you find the light, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
We've all experienced it. But I think a lot of people that I know are living a life where they are prisoners to themselves, in if I can put it that way, because they are afraid of pushing through. So they accept where they are and they just stay where they are, but it makes them so unhappy.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a common problem, because we have, in more recent times, we have all been silenced by something stupid as wearing a mask, and that has caused us to look a lot more internally than trying to live outernally or live outwardly, and the mind goes into a bit of a spiral. You do tend to start thinking more and more negatively, and I mean, we've lost a lot of positivity in the last 2 years. There's been a lot of positive energy lost and kind of just obliterated by all the things that have happened. And for me personally, coming through this whole thing, I've started embarking on a journey where I want to rebuild my golf swing, and I want to go back to what I used to do as a player, and how I used to play and how I used to swing. So I've gone back to my university coach, and I've seen him now for, I think it's 4 lessons. And
what's your handicap at the moment? Index?
4.8.
Index?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's climbed a bit.
No, it's climbed a lot.
Because I think the last time I saw your index, it was like a 2 or a 1.
Yeah, and I think I was a 2.3 or something like that.
Yeah.
And there's been twins, family. There's been a lot of things that have happened in our lives. We kept on having to revolutionize our businesses, and we got involved in a lot of things, and it's kind of distracted me away from golf a little bit, which has had to happen because I had to focus on other things.
Life happens, right? And
golf has taken a little bit of a back seat on that, but it's been hurting me, and it's made me depressed in a sense, because I know that I'm a level par player. I know I can shoot 72. I know I can make a few birdies in a round. At the moment, it's crazy because I do not know what chocolate I'm going to pick out of the packet today. I cannot tell you. And it's random every single time. So what business has taught me in golf is to take a few steps back and to go back to what you know and what made you relevant at the time. What was good for you at the time? What worked for you at the time? And I said to myself, now we're all doing business coaching. Now we're all watching YouTube videos on business, and now there's that masterclass. You've obviously seen the masterclass thing. Yeah. Now there's all sorts of coaching going around in the world, but we're not going back to our sports coaches. We're not going back to our sports psychologists. We're not going back to our nutritionists, our dietitians, our gym instructors, or whatever that is, asking every single person, what is the best version of myself that I can be?
What you said now is just so powerful. We forget what made us successful in the first place.
We forget what made us do it.
And I can apply that to my own golf swing. It's like we forget what made us special in the first place. And we get absorbed into this environment that we see. We watch too much YouTube.
Yeah.
We watch too many masterclasses. And then we go out there and we try and be a version. We swing someone else's swing. Yes. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
We swing someone else's swing.
Yeah.
And when that happens, we get so caught in the spiral of swinging someone else's swing that we completely miss the boat.
Yeah.
And you're so right, and that's such an interesting point. I mean, just focus on what made you successful, and even in business, focus on what got you to the table.
Yeah.
Focus on that and build on
because that. Because you did something You said something, you picked up the phone, you wrote an email, I've got a client that is now a client that was potentially going somewhere else. And I thought to myself, what was that one thing that I did that got me to the table, that opened the door for us? And it wasn't about writing a love letter or coming up
Or
with,
sucking up.
or sucking up, or it's just that one thing that you celebrated the moment you realized you did it the right way that got you to the table.
Let me ask you this question. In your experience of life and what you've experienced now, I mean, your life has also changed a lot over the last couple of years. You've had twins and you've moved house and all sorts of things. Do you feel like sometimes, because you're in this environment that's so highly pressurized, you've got people that are coming to you asking you to design their dream homes. They are paying you, and their project values are multi-million. They made best estates in the country, etc., etc. Then you go to the golf course. Because you're a PGA pro and you've got a low handicap, everyone's got this expectation of how Malcom plays, and so the pressures go on. Do you find that sometimes in that you lose focus of not who you are, but you sometimes get distracted about what it is that Malcolm's mission is every day?
Yeah, absolutely. There's often the environment that comes around where you're on a good wicket, you're busy shooting low scores, you're in the groove, and you get a bit of attention, or you get a bit of someone celebrates you, you win a thing, and the limelight is on you, and you do naturally forget who you are. And in business, when you start out, you are Jenny from the block. You are just that guy that just started out. You're on this new path, and you hit a bit of luck, and you're in the groove, and you're swimming with all the salmons, and everything's just going your way, and there's nothing that's touching you at the moment, and you do forget who you are as an individual. We don't have a lot of quiet time or personal time to reflect after the round of golf, or after the meeting, or after the day, when we sit in a space where we can reflect on those times and those days and areas. Because there's so much noise around us and so many distractions, we think we don't have the time to sit and just reflect on what has just happened. And you do lose yourself in a way. You do lose yourself in a way because the rush becomes an addiction. You got to find that next one. You got to find the next victory. You got to find the next opponent. You got to find the next deal. You got to chase the next materialistic thing. When someone comes to you and says to you, "I've got this project or an opportunity in front of you," those people do not know what they're about to invest in you when they embark on a journey with you. When you have to design a home for a client, or when our architectural firm has to pitch to design a home for a client, that client does not know what they're about to invest in. They think they're going to get this amazing house for a certain value, and then you shock them with a different price. But if you've done your due diligence and you've presented and pitched in a certain way that gives that person the confidence and the certainty that I'm at the right place, they are so much more comfortable and so much more willing to sign with you, because you give them no reason to go anywhere else. When you're on the golf course and you are shooting good scores, everybody wants to play with you. Everybody wants to have a round with you. Everybody wants you to be their partner. And you kind of like that because you're helping them get all the points. You're helping them to do well in the days and then the challenges. But then things start going wrong for you. You have a sports injury. You have a problem at home. You have financial strain that you need to make it for the next month. and then you start playing badly. You start making mistakes. You get the yips. You shank. You miss putts. You duff shots. You flip, but you spin out of control, and then you lose who you are. And you don't know, because we're so used to going forward and fast forwarding so much, we forget to just stand still and to just take stock of what's going on right now.
Absolutely.
I can't tell you how valuable it is to take stock of life, just where you are. Because, like you said earlier, when you take stock of life where you are right now, you'll actually realize that things are a little bit better than what you think it is.
No, life is pretty good.
Even if you are in a bad place.
Yeah. And sorry to cut you off there, but sometimes even if you're in a bad place, we need to look at it in context. And I know that some people go to bad. Their bad place might be a fact that they've lost somebody.
Yeah.
And that is obviously a completely different kettle of fish. But
yeah, for sure.
if you wake up in the morning and you open your eyes, and there's a roof over your head, and your loved ones are around you,
yeah,
everyone's fine. You're going to go downstairs, you're going to have a breakfast, you're going to have some food in your stomach. All of them are going to have food in their stomach.
Yeah.
And you start off with having gratitude for the basics.
Yeah.
It makes it so much easier to remain in the present.
Yeah.
Because often if you find like, oh, I'm feeling stressed now. I mean, I had a day like this the other day where I thought, oh, I'm feeling so stressed. What am I stressed about? Something in the future that might or might not happen.
Yeah.
I might or might not win the deal.
Yeah.
And what relevance does that have now?
Yeah.
And often you find when you get to the point where those decisions are being made, it might or it might not be.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it's not as bad as if you think that if it doesn't happen, if you don't win the deal, it's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
But it's not. Life carries on.
Yeah.
Life changes.
Yeah.
But what we want to do is we want to control. We want to control the life.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you experience the frustration, the anxiety, all of these sort of things.
Yeah.
But if you say, in this moment, I'm going to do the best that I can do, and let life decide.
Yeah.
You find that all of those the tension inside you just releases.
Yeah.
and you just go with the flow.
Yeah.
You become part of the flow. You know?
Absolutely. You know, when just an example from golf, when Justin Thomas won his last major, starting out on the Sunday, he had 1.2% of winning that major on the day. There were how many other players in the field? How many other
amazing players?
How many other professional guys were pitching for the trophy that day?
Mm-hmm.
If you had to take Sunday at the majors, guys are pitching for that trophy and they're all bringing their best. They've all got their wives, their families there, everybody's supporting them. You've got 1.2% chance of winning that major. And all he had to do was rock up on that day and give his absolute best and know that if he played in a certain way, if he performed in a certain way, he's got a shot at the trophy. Can you imagine how strong your mind must be to believe in 1.2%?
Let me give you the converse. Would you rather be in his position at 1.2%, knowing that you in your heart have the talent to do it? Or would you rather be in third or fourth place with that pressure of the pack behind you? Because if he hadn't done it, right, no one would have noticed.
No one would
There's
have.
no pressure.
Yeah.
So I just look at it and say, like, sometimes we just need to be in that mindset where there's no pressure.
Yeah. But that pressure happens when the things are going right for you. That pressure happens when you know you're in the fast lane at the moment. Scotty Scheffler has won how many tournaments in a row? He's world number one. He's won, he wins left, right, and centre.
With the strangest swing that
With the most bizarre swing and follow through that probably anyone's seen on the tour these days. That's top 10 in the world.
And that's swing your swing, man. It is that simple, and it's like life. Swing your swing. God has given you certain attributes. God, the universe, whatever you want to call the power above. If you do, if you don't, it's also fine. But, you've been given these attributes.
Yeah.
Make the best out of what you can with these attributes. It's not about trying to. Now, everyone can't swing a tiger swing. Scotty's swing is so clumsy at the end.
Unorthodox. But, he slides, he follows through, he falls off the ball often.
But it works.
But it works. It works for the guy. And, some guys walk into a boardroom and they've got the personality. They the guy that makes the client feels jeepers. I want to work with these people because look how they operate. Look how excited they are about life. Look at their passion for what they're doing. Look at how much interest they are showing in me. Other times you walk into a boardroom and you think, well, this person is only trying to sell me what they think is right and what they think works in the world. But have you considered all my needs and my wants and what I would like to achieve? And that for me has always been the interesting thing to bring sport into the business world. And how pure grit and effort helps when you need to make an important decision or you're faced with a difficult decision or a big opportunity, the BMT, the big match temperament move that you have to make, and listen, I mean, when we started, as you explained in the beginning of the podcast, we've embarked on a project together once, and I can tell you there's been massive mistakes, things that were overlooked or opportunities that were not taken or signs that were not identified.
But such is the nature of projects, right? I mean, a lot of the people that are listening to this podcast probably work on a project or have experienced a project. A project is a difficult thing, man.
Yeah.
Because it sets an expectation that there's a start date and an end date.
Yes.
And that end date, everyone's now got this, especially your stakeholders, your key stakeholders have got this end date in their mind. And now you're trying to panel beat everything to get to the end date.
Yes.
And often, people that are involved in the process don't manage the senior stakeholders well. And as you get closer to the end date, things start to fall apart, and then everyone starts to throw their doors out the cottage.
Yes, yeah. Especially when the heat is on, especially when the pressure is up and the end date starts making you panic. And the thing that I did not enjoy while we were doing these projects, where I moved from assisting clients pre-construction, there was an opportunity to get involved in during construction projects where we assisted the clients as a project monitor or a coordinator in helping with procurement and things like that. That's when I started seeing the true ugliness of the industry. And that's when I started realizing I do not want to be in that space, because my value is wasted there in trying to help certain people that do not really want you there, first of all. Second of all, now you seem more important than them. And third of all, if something goes wrong, you're the first person that gets the brunt. But that also taught me a lot in other aspects of my life as well. So I'll never regret that. I take away so many things from that, and it was an exciting time, and it was very cool to experience what actually it takes to deal with people's hard-earned money and the emotional roller coaster that people go on.
For sure.
When they invest in you.
For sure.
Because people invest in you with the best intentions. And you got to make sure that you've got the knowledge, the experience, and the ability to deliver, And I once worked in a golf course in America called Muirfield Village. It's Jack Nicklaus's home course. I was in my early 20s, and I worked just before the Memorial Tournament. I worked at the golf course, and the memorial tournament was 2 weeks afterwards. And I had my first massive exposure to PGA Tour golf events. I mean, I was 3 meters away from Tiger Woods, watching him on the driving range, hitting his Nike own Tiger Woods golf balls. Everybody else got Titleist golf balls, everybody else got Callaways and Strixons and all the other golf balls. Tiger had his own box with his own golf balls. And only Tiger can hit those golf balls.
And was he still playing the Nike Blade irons?
He was still playing the Nike irons, yeah.
Okay.
And I watched him tee off. I shook hands with Jack Nicklaus. He treated me like a friend.
What is it like when you watch Tiger tee off? Was he in? I mean, at that point he was in his prime, right?
No, he was doing very well at that time, yeah.
And what is it like to see him at the ball of the tee?
It's, Tiger's swing at the time was so structurally sound that you almost don't watch him hit it, you just watch him swing. You don't even, in the beginning, like when you watch Tiger for the first few times, you don't even look at the balls going, you just look at this guy and you think, how perfect is every single position of that golf swing? And at the time, that was the perfect golf swing. I mean,
was this before or after the rebuild? Because he had it swing.
It was before the rebuild.
Okay,
it was before. And he can stack his spine. He swings through a golf ball. The most vivid memory was he walks up to the tee box, puts the tee on the ground, and he actually still taps it down with his driver. Doesn't fall off the tee.
Jeez.
That's how perfectly that guy did everything. He literally walks onto the tee box, puts his driver he puts his tee into the ground, ball on top of the tee, and taps it with his driver. Ball doesn't fall off the tee. And that's like, we do that and the ball goes,
of course,
off the tee box. But it was just incredible to watch him and to be part of that whole experience. And then afterwards, I came, when I had to leave, the golf director of Muirfield Village still came up to me. He said to me, "Here's your check, but I've got to tell you one thing. You've still got a lot to learn in this industry." And I had a 36-hour journey back home to think about that one comment.
Sure.
Thank you for your service, but you've still got a lot to learn in this industry.
And what do you take away from that? What do you think he was talking about?
What I take away from that is when you get the opportunity to work in an environment, or you get employed, or you start a new job, or whatever, or a new course, or whatever that is, never act like you know what you're doing. Never act like you know what you are bringing to the table. Don't go try and tell people that I come from this place and I know what to do. It was the biggest mistake I made, is walking around Muirfield Village and thinking that I know something about the golf industry. I'm this young PGA apprentice from South Africa, and I'm going to teach you Oaks how to run a pro shop, or do merchandising, or do some coaching on the driving range, or play a round of golf. I played a round of golf with who's the guy from the New England Patriots, man? He's a famous Oak at the moment. Forgot his name, but I played a round of golf with him. And what I learned from that guy in sports and focus and dedication. We walked 6 hours of golf, and how he was talking about his training regime, and how he asked questions, how he studied his body, studied the game, studied his opponents, studied the venue, the environment, everything. And I just thought to myself, how small and insignificant are we in the greater scheme of things? But we'll forever remain that way unless we start asking the questions, exploring, being dumb and sticking up your hand and say, sorry sir, sorry man, I don't know what that means. Please tell me, because I'm only dumb for 30 seconds.
Absolutely.
But I'm forever the wiser afterwards.
Absolutely.
And the same thing has been applied over and over and over in my business opportunities from there on forwards, is always realizing that I've got so much to learn. And you have to stay relevant. You have to stay relevant. I read this morning in a book that I'm reading, we're all complaining that we're not employable or good enough, or we get retrenched, or we lose a deal or whatever, but we're not. How relevant are we to what people are looking for? The game of golf is evolving. Are we evolving as aspiring
social golfers, yeah.
Social golfers or low handicappers?
Yeah.
Are we evolving? Are we making ourselves better? Are we eating healthy enough? Are we practicing enough? Are we exercising enough? Are we studying enough? Are we reading enough? There's so many things, but the biggest thing for me is like, how do I... Recently I've realized that I have to constantly challenge myself in the areas where I know I'm going to be faced with a situation where I have to come up with the goods. And joining the architectural firm has thrown me into a very deep end. Because although I have a massive passion for architecture and houses and the built environment, I myself am not an architect. So how do you take on something that you do not have a 7-8 year degree in? How do you take a business forward knowing that someone has built it for 35 years and you've got the opportunity to take it to that next level? Do you grow locally? Do you grow globally? Do you try and expand into different markets, or do you just stick to what you know? Will you be relevant in the next 5 years? It's massive knowing that anything can happen at any moment, and you don't have the directors at the top on the bridge anymore. You're in the engine room. You're busy pouring coals in that engine, and that thing has to keep on heading towards its port. The directors are on the bridge ensuring that the business goes in the right direction. But in the next few years, you've got to make that leap from the engine room up to the bridge, and you've got to know that by the time you get there and the captain asks you all the questions, you can answer them.
Yeah, and I honestly don't think that you being a architectural specialist determines the value that you can bring to the business. Because I do think that sometimes being a specialist in the industry, this type of industry also skews your broader vision of where the business could go. So if I look at you and I look at your personality and the things that you bring to the table, I think client acquisition is massive for you. You know, the ability to bring in a high net worth individual, to have an executive level conversation around building their dream home at that scale, and then take them through the process and you know, down to the builders and all of the vetted people that you have within your supply chain that can help their dream become a vision. I don't know if your directorate at the moment are capable of doing that at the level you could be, which means that, you know, any business is driven on sales.
Yeah.
Every business is driven on acquisition.
Yeah.
I mean, your role in acquisition doesn't necessarily mean that you need to replace any of the directorate, but it means that you bring something different to the table that they cannot, not that they cannot, but they will struggle to do without you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
The other challenge would be eventually the directorates who are older than you would depart. And your challenge would be now to build a leadership team.
Yes.
Amongst those specialists who can be there to support you.
Yeah, yeah. But that opens up the insight into are you anxious about the future? Or are you just doing whatever you need to do right now to the best of your ability?
I mean,
you know what I mean? So
let me ask you this question: Does that conversation make you anxious?
It does.
I'm sure it does.
It does make me anxious.
I'm sure it does, because your mind is going in a million miles an hour. What do I need to do? What do I need to do now? How am I going to stay relevant?
To ensure that the design philosophy and what's being created can survive. You know, it does make you anxious, because we all watch the movies of the prodigal son coming home and takes over the father's business after living the cowboy's life like Matthew McConaughey. You know what I mean? Like all the stuff that he's done in his life, and coming home and bringing everything home and starting from home and then building back outward again. Yes, that conversation does make you anxious, because, well, first of all, you don't know what's going to happen. Second of all, you can't control it.
But the anxious is also good, because it also makes it relevant that you have a passion for it. You want it to succeed. If you weren't anxious about it, you wouldn't really care.
And that also helps you to not relax and to just lay back and say, someone else will do it for me. Because for the first time in my life, and believe it or not, for the first time in my life, when that moment comes, no one else will make it happen for me. And it's always been a point that is stuck to the back of my mind. When I was younger, someone said to me, you'll always have someone that'll make it happen for you. And it kind of came true in a few of my school projects and a few of the fights that I've had to have in my life. But the time will come when someone else, where you can't rely on someone else to make it happen for you.
And you shouldn't.
And it'll just depend, that the success of that thing will depend on you. And I'm starting to realize that now.
And it's a good thing, because when you get there and you achieve it, you don't want it to be diluted by somebody else helping you along the way, someone else pushing your feet up and saying, you go and take the glory, but I actually helped you.
Exactly. And it's the same with like your golf. I mean, we're all complaining. You know how many times we play around a golf and someone says to me, I don't want to hit my 3-wood. Why? Because I can't hit it. Well, why can't you hit it? Because I've never practiced it. Oh, well.
Then take it out of the bag.
No, go to the driving range and practice your 3-wood. Hit your 3-wood.
Yeah.
Or I can't hit my hybrid, or I don't want to hit my driver today because, I haven't been hitting it well and I'm under a bit of pressure. And one of my varsity coaches in Pretoria said to me, I played around a golf with you today and I never saw you hit that one club. Why don't you hit it? Because I'm not confident with that club. When I have to hit the green on a par 5 and I've got 230 or 210 in, I can't hit that shot. I completely collapse on my golf swing. I hit it way right. I hit it OB, and then that's my lose. That's my lose on the hole. Well, for the next 3 weeks, that's the only club you'll be hitting on the driving range. You'll warm up, and that's what you'll be hitting. Now, when we are weak in some area, do we focus on everything else to try and drag that area along, or do we focus on that area to catch up with everything else that's strong in your life?
My honest opinion, and this is a good conversation because I've had this conversation with someone else a few episodes ago, is my personal view is that if you focus on developing your strengths can become extraordinary. But if you focus on developing your weaknesses at best could become average. So now you've got some strengths and you've got some average. Instead of focusing on the things that you are naturally really good at doing, that you can take to the next level to become extraordinary. That's my personal opinion. And I also think that it's at our stage of the game, and I'm talking about golf, I'm talking about life, the years are flying by.
Yes.
It's not like we're 20s in our 20s anymore.
They're moving.
Both of us are looking very grey, brother. and the reality of the situation is now we have to play smart.
Yeah.
Now we have to play the strategic game.
Yes.
We've got families, we've got people depending on us.
Yes.
We have to play smart now. We have to, and for me, it's about how do I leverage my strengths. What is it that I can do every day when I get into my business that I can do extraordinarily well, and that can take this business to the next level. And I just focus on that. And all the stuff that I'm really not good at doing, I find people that are good at doing.
Yeah.
And you give it to them to do.
Yeah.
You find people you can trust, and you give it to them. And I can tell you something that I wanted to speak to you about earlier. You talked about luck. You know, through your career and through your life, you find luck. And the common thing is, you know, it's about timing and this and that. And a few years ago, I met a very successful businessman, and he said to me, Sean, everything in life is about timing, about luck. I said, okay, well, I know that. And he said, but do you know how you make luck? So I said, no, I don't. And he said to me, you make luck by being good to every other person around you. And I'm sure you meant in his business context.
Yeah. Sure.
So it's such a big part of it, and your role as well that you're taking on, such a big part of it is the reach down, grab somebody else, pull them up.
Yeah.
Find people that have got limited opportunities, give them an opportunity.
Yeah.
Work with them, make them better.
Yeah.
You know, and I think in so much of what we do in life is around making our own lives better, that we forget that we have a responsibility to everyone around us that makes it happen for us.
Yeah.
When you look at your SBE business, there's tons of people working there. There's
Yes.
people working through the night.
Yeah.
You've got people doing the videos and people doing the designs and people doing all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And how do you take all of those people and uplift everyone? You know?
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, that timing and all of that is a great part. And making it, like you said, you know, making it is great. But how do you make it?
Yeah.
What is making it entail?
Yeah.
Is it money? I think that sometimes if we think that money, making it is by the size of your bank balance, often people get to that and then they realize that it's so superficial that it doesn't fulfill them. There's no fulfillment in it.
Yeah.
And then they go through a cycle.
Yes.
The falling off the bus in the midlife crisis and all of those sort of things.
Yeah.
But if you make it and you find that in making it you've uplifted everyone around you, and they've also made it, you know.
It's about serving people. It's about, you know, we are here to achieve things. We are here to fulfill a specific task that we are put on earth to do. Depends on your belief and that sort of thing. But ultimately, we are here to serve one another. And I think that's the core essence of every single day living in a certain way. How can I serve the people around me, and how can I reach out up, down, left, right, whatever that is, to multiple people around me and help them where they are.
And you find people in your business that you can trust. And when you find those people, you take care of them and you nurture them and you make life good for them. Because they'll make life good for you. Because I promise you, finding people that you can trust wholeheartedly is really difficult.
One other thing that you just mentioned about you know, the strengths and weaknesses is an interesting personal point on that is that I've done so much from when I was young is that when I was in school, I could not even say my own name. I could not speak in front of people. I couldn't say a speech in front of class. I couldn't deliver a presentation. I couldn't talk to girls. I was always the quiet one.
I'm going to ask Laura about this.
And the one thing that I can say about turning a very simple weakness such as speech into a strong point is that you can never underestimate where that weakness can take you. Because where I used to be from not being able to speak to anybody to where I am right now, I cannot tell you the significant moment that this is, that I can do a talk like this. I've been lucky enough to be asked to be MC at a few weddings in the past, where like I've had tears in my eyes when I had to say a speech, because I could not speak in front of people.
Shame.
I would say a speech where people would cry, and I would say a speech to a groom where all the women would stand up and clap hands. I was like, but I'm that little boy that could never speak. I'm that little boy that used to call when the prefect used to come up to me in matric, when I was in grade 8, and the prefect used to come up to me and say, "What's your name?" I used to say Stephen. Because I couldn't say Malcolm.
In grade 8, eh?
Grade 8, I couldn't say my own name. I was so, my speech was so bad I couldn't say my own name. I asked every single teacher in grade 8 if I can say my speech privately in their office after class. I couldn't speak.
Sure.
And
so when did it change?
It changed on my mom's 40th birthday, actually. She just randomly called me up and asked me if I can say something in front of everybody. And it was just a moment that just clicked for me that I have to say something. How funny this may sound, but love made me speak. There was no other
I have a friend who
thing that clicked, or no other technique, nothing else happened. It was love made me speak, because I knew if I spoke about love and the love for my mom and the love for my family, I can talk about these things. But then also you can speak about your passions, you can speak about things that excite you. I could speak about golf. I can talk about golf with you until Shalini and Laura phones us and says to us, "Listen boys, you guys go away for the weekend or what?" I can talk about that stuff forever. Things that I was never confident about, I could never speak about. I was never confident about myself. Never confident in my ability to do certain things. And that's where I got stuck.
And how did you overcome that? Can I ask you an honest question? Are you still overcoming? Are you still overcoming it?
I am still overcoming it, but every engagement and every opportunity is just a little bit more easier.
Yeah.
How I'm overcoming it, I'm not doing a course, I'm
sure.
not doing public speaking or whatever. I'm constantly putting myself in uncomfortable positions. I've got a 3-point action list. And one of those things is doing something uncomfortable every day. Make my bed. It's not comfortable. Phone a client. Follow up on a lead. Write that email. Attend that meeting. Run that meeting. Obviously, I was asked to be MC on a few weddings. That was like kind of you can't say no to people. You can't say, "No, I don't want to be an MC." Because it's all friends and family and whatever. And it was constantly putting yourself in that uncomfortable and challenging yourself in that environment that is helping you overcome that. And I get times where I stutter badly. I'll sit at home with the missus and I'll stutter saying the most random thing. And then at least now it's light and it's laughable and it doesn't hurt as much. It used to hurt a lot. It used to really sting and hurt. But I know that I'm able to do it. We can make birdies. We can close a deal. It's like when you believe in that thing and you start realizing that, hey, it's doable. I've been there before. I have hit that shot before. I have said that speech before. I have made that phone call before. I've got a client that I've had to make the call. I've had to make a difficult call. But I knew that I've done it before. And I know that it was my turn.
That's who you are.
That's who I am.
That's who you need to be. And you want to run the firm, you need to be able to do those things.
You need to be able to do those things.
It's painful sometimes that we're in this position, and I often tell the guys here as well, sometimes it's not nice to be the person that has to do the uncomfortable things, but it is the role of the person to do what's best for the business.
Yeah.
Not what's best for the CEO, the MD, or whatever, but what's best for the business.
Best for the business, yeah. And best for you as a person as well, because at the end of the day, you got to lay your head on that pillow.
You have to.
You got to sleep. You got to sleep with that on your mind.
You got to go to sleep, and you got to know that today, a business is so much like a child. You watch it grow, you nurture it, it grows, you take care of it. But like a child, it needs your attention. It needs your focus. It needs your guidance. It needs your leadership. It needs all of these things.
Yeah.
And the minute you neglect it, you see the outcomes of it.
Yeah.
You know, and one has to be very careful about how they manage themselves and how they manage their businesses.
Yeah.
But I must say, it is very exciting to be in your situation where I find it very exciting where you have the ability to now take something that's already established and come in with a startup energy.
Yeah.
And energize it with a startup energy and a dynamic, and it is very exciting.
Absolutely, thank you. And I mean, it's like, a lot of our podcasts that we listen to, and a lot of the people that we follow online, and it's all about the conversations with successful friends and the network that has achieved great things. And I think there's such a need for us just to listen to the normal, everyday grind and the normal person that is out there also trying to make a difference.
Of course.
Because, yes, those guys have achieved it, and those guys are doing some incredible things, and we listen to them, and they pump us up, and we ramp up the volume, and we walk into that environment, whether it's on a golf course. When I played Club Champs, I left my house and I listened to all the bangers. I mean, I had earphones on, and I drove my grandmother's little Ford Fiesta. Like, I was cruising at 80 k's an hour, my golf hat on, kit, everything.
You're probably the size of the car.
I was literally Fred Flintstone with my feet flipping, propelling the car forward, and I was so pumped. Shot 98. And it's like, it's not, you can't explain it.
Yeah, and I mean, just to put it in context, 98 on your handicap is right. It's like
it's a total blob. I mean, it's a flop of a business meeting. It's a total stuff up of.
And the worst part is it's on this app where everyone's watching it.
Yeah. No, for sure, and it's happening in real life.
It's happening in real life.
It's happening right. You're watching all the oaks climbing the leaderboard. You busy going down the leaderboard, and you are lost. You are the last oak in the A division, and
probably one of the more talented oaks as well. Yeah, and I'd say that with respect to everyone else, and with respect to your ego as well. But I mean, when I logged on and I saw that, I thought to myself, "Is this right? Can this be?" But you know what?
Yeah.
You know what, Malcolm? The reality is that, and this is what you've got to love about life.
Yeah.
Life it's so unpredictable, it will knock you to the floor.
Yeah.
And it's a test.
Yeah.
And it's about the getting up.
Yeah.
It's about getting up, getting help, moving forward. Yeah. Slowly at a time.
That golfer that just won the US Open, I forgot his name now, he's from the UK. After his round of golf, he was interviewed by the media, private interview, and they said he makes a note after every single shot that he hits. Every single shot that he hits on tour, in the tournament, he makes a note, and it just shows you how far you can go in reflecting after every move you make.
And how much discipline there is in that. And when I was going through a bad patch of golf about a year ago, I started journaling. After every round, I'd have a structure, what worked well, what didn't work well, where my improvements were, and then I had a rating scale of how I'd rate my performance relative to myself.
Yeah, of course.
And I went through months and months of doing that diligently, and the score started to tumble.
Yeah.
And I started to shoot really good scores. And then what happened? You lose the discipline.
Yeah.
Because now you think, oh no, I made it now.
Yeah.
And now I'm shooting in the 80s, so it's all good. And then you forget that.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, all of that is undone because you've lost that discipline.
Yeah.
And then how, I mean, coming from a sports science background, how does one stay in that discipline, man? How do you come? What is it the lack of a goal? Is it a lack, or is it a case where the goal needs to be evolving? Because the goal was break 90. Now you break 90, now you forget about it. Should the goal then be break 80?
Yeah.
Does the goal need to be...
The goal constantly needs to evolve in its accuracy. You know, now we all want to break 100. Okay, now you've broken 100. Now you want to shoot low 90s, break 90, shoot low 80s, break 80. You know, that's the general aspiration of the golfer. But when you start hitting those targets of achieving the big score, there's 80 shots that happened in you shooting 80. Now you got to start drilling down and saying, I want to hit so many fairways. I want to hit so many greens in regulation. I want to make sure that I avoid 3 putts. I want to make sure that when I do have a bunker shot, I'm at least hitting the green.
Yeah. Or at least getting out.
At least getting out for some guys. And then when you start hitting those targets more regularly and more consistently, then you can start saying to yourself, okay, now I want to start shaping shots. Now I want to be able to hit draws and fades and high cuts and, you know, stingers and that sort of thing. You know, so it's not that you lose discipline. It's just now you've achieved it. So now you're like, well, okay, now I know I can do it, so I don't have to really worry about anything else. But now you wonder why you're not getting better than that. It's because we're not drilling deeper down. And we're going, okay, cool, now that I've got the base, what are some of the smallest targets that I can hit? You know, on the driving range. I can hit the 80 meter mark. I can hit the 100 meter mark. Now I want to try and hit the 170 meter mark more consistently. I want to be sure that I hit my ball through these 2 flags, you know, at least 8 times out of 10. So I think the discipline comes from knowing what you have to do every day. You have to tick those things off. And if you don't tick those things off, you haven't won the day. You've lost the day. All the things that we listen to, you've lost the day. You either win the day or you lose the day. If you can write your things and you can achieve what you've wanted to achieve that day, put a big W. I've won the day. And working towards that goal is doing the mundane over and over, you know, and it's when you open your eyes to know that this is what I need to get through today, and this could be my big goal, could be my mid-level goal, and these are my micro goals, and these are the things that I have to do. You know, not that it means anything to what we're talking about, but I'm on a bit of a challenge at the moment. I'm only in day 3, but I've got to do 2 workouts every day. So I did my first one this morning. My second one has to be outdoors. I've got to go home now, or when we're done, got to spend some time with the babies. Laura's going to wash the babies and help them to put them to bed. We've got to cook dinner. And then I've got to go outside and train for 45 minutes. If I don't do that, I've lost my day. I have to start over. So when the kids go to bed, I've got to go put my warms on. I've got to get outside and I've got to go and
discipline.
Exercise for 45 minutes. And these are the things that I want to keep on pushing myself doing. Because I know that when I can't even keep my eyes open and I have to write one more email, and that email is going to be the most important email of the day, I'll do that email.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I've got to drink 3.5 liters of water every day. Those are the things I have to tick off every single day. And I have to take a progress photo. Every day I have to take stock of what I've done. It's not a long challenge. It's, it's a short-term thing, but
it's something that's good because it keeps your mind in a structure.
Yeah.
And it's something that you also, I like the reset. So you make a mistake, you start again.
Yes.
So you actually can't make a mistake.
Don't want to make
because you don't want to go back one day.
Yeah.
Leave alone go back 10 days. And the further you get in, the further you don't want to go back.
My previous one I made 55.
I remember that.
55 days.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember.
Well, we did 55 plus change, but on the thing it actually recorded as 55, so that's official. But that feeling of giving up, it's not lekker.
You got to push, right? You got to push through.
You
Some
gotta
days
push.
you think, why am I doing this, man?
Yeah.
Can't I just go and just live a normal life? And then your mind starts to play tricks and you're like, oh, life is short, man.
Yeah. Live a little.
Little. Come on, man. Life is short. You work so hard.
Yeah.
And those are the things that are constantly in and around us,
Yeah.
And you have to see through that to say there's a goal. And when I reach the goal, I can celebrate.
Yes.
But from now to then, I'm going to be structured and I'm going to be methodical and I'm going to be, in a way, ruthless till I get my goal.
Yeah. I don't think we realize the impact that working towards that something, how it influences a few other things that are very close to your life. How it influences your family life, your friendship life, your personal life with your spouse. Because now, when you're zoned in on something very specific, the noise starts fading away. The lights and everything goes past you, and that's when you stay in your lane.
Yeah, exactly.
That's when you stay in your lane, is when you know what you're working towards.
Yeah, exactly.
And you wake up every day and you know that that's what I'm working towards. And the noise just goes past, and the social media feeds, and the this and the that, and the pictures, and the living the dream, and the oaks making top dollar. And you know that what I'm doing right now is getting me somewhere. And when I get there, then I can put my feet up for 24 hours and relax.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Professional athletes, they win the Super Bowl. They take a few days off, back to the grind. Doesn't mean we can't do it.
No, exactly. Exactly. And it's all relative, right? Our goals doesn't have to be winning the Super Bowl, but it can be relative to what we've got going on in our lives.
If you want to go on a vacation, save a little bit of ammo, put away a little bit every month, boom, you've achieved your vacation, go and take a week off.
Yeah.
Something like that. It doesn't have to be winning the Super Bowl, but it can be, I would like to spoil myself, for me, my goal is, I need a new pair of golf shoes.
Yeah.
I will not buy myself a new pair of golf shoes until I shoot that score.
Okay.
And that's why I'm doing this challenge. I'm eating healthy, I'm hydrating, I'm exercising, I'm working on my golf swing. I want to play more golf. I want to stop doing the bad things in my life and I want to focus on the good things in my life. And if I can hit that damn goal, I'm going to go buy those golf shoes.
Amazing.
It doesn't matter the price of the golf shoe. It's just
material.
That for me is a goal.
Yeah.
I need a new driver. I dinged my driver. I need a new driver, but I don't want to buy my new driver until I know I've hit my goal.
And also, you want to be able to use the driver when you are mentally and physically in the right position to make the best of it.
Yeah.
You don't want to buy a new driver and then you snap hooking it into the water. I mean, it's devastating.
No,
it's devastating.
It is, and I think it's an interesting conversation when you have sports and business, and when you talk like this. So in business, as with our sports aspirations, it's those little things that we do every day, over and over, that gets us across the line. Gets us the win at the end of the day. It's when myself and Greg played that match on Sunday. It's the consistent things that we started doing as a team that helped us get further and further in the competition. And you go back and you know that you've still got so much to learn. you've got so much to learn, because here's the two older guys that have played, so much more golf, and they just focus about their own thing, and they know what they can do, and you try and play multiple scenarios where you just play the golf course. You just stay in your lane and you just play your golf course. You just see how good you can fare against par, and that's your measuring tool every single time.
No, it's so true. It's so true. And sometimes you get so involved in watching what everyone else is doing that it distracts you to a point where you end up losing so much focus and you end up playing badly. And that goes for life, that goes for business, it goes for everything. And that's why the concept of stay in your lane is so powerful. For me, I just see it as stay in your lane and just embrace what's happening in your life.
Yeah.
Embrace it. Don't run from it. Because running from it does nothing. There's no value in running. Embrace it. Embrace the good. Be great. Show gratitude for the good. Embrace the challenges. Face it head on. And the challenges will take you to somewhere beautiful. I promise you, let's have a chat in 6 months' time. Your golf game will be even better. But this stage that you're going through was necessary for you to do the rebuild. And because if you hadn't gone through this stage, you would have just been complacent and just everything would have just been fine. You wouldn't have worked
okay with it.
And you would have just not worked on improving at all. So this has come to help grow you, and that's just the way life works. But Malcom, it has been an absolute privilege. I mean, we go through time. You and I, you and I can talk for days.
I always wonder, how can people do these long podcasts?
It's like you and I can talk for days, and I will definitely have you back on the show. And everyone was so privileged to hear what you shared today. And some of it was really deep, so thank you for that.
Sure.
And the one thing that I'm taking away from what you've mentioned today is that we need to find our tribe. And we need to stop living in isolation, and we need to start growing as a tribe, because when we grow our tribe and we explore sport opportunities, business as a tribe, we grow a capability greater than ourselves. So good on you and your brothers. I think you guys are pioneering something great. And as always, thanks very much for your time, and I'll put a link in the description for everyone if they want to build their next luxury home with you.
Thanks.
But thanks very much.
Thanks, Sean. Again, it's great what you're doing. The fact that you're just reaching out to normal people that want to achieve more, and people that want to just also tell their story. No matter how simple it is, there's lessons in everybody's story, and thanks for hosting me. We've been trying for so long, and I think for us, we need to conversate more. We need to have these conversations and just follow up with one another, and just check in with one another all the time. And it's good, like you say, let's have another conversation a few months down the line and see where we are.
Exactly.
See where we are. See where you are. See what you've learned. See what I've learned. And keep, because if you can follow someone's progress, you can see whether that person has done what they've set out to do.
Well, they've just stagnated.
Or they've just stagnated. So I can't go home tonight and not have that 45-minute walk outside, because I've just verbally spoken it. You know what I mean? And that's good when you can verbally put something into the universe. You have to go and do that.
Speak it, believe it, receive it.
Absolutely.
That's what they say.
Absolutely.
But guys, thank you so much for joining our show. It's another chilly night. Stay warm out there. But most of all, my friends, as always, stay inspired. Cheers.